So today, guys, I thought I'd bring you guys a little different style video with Madden 20 coming out this week. And I'm not getting the game yet. I'm probably going to wait until the winter just because I want to save up my money and make sure I can get 2K. I think I'm getting the Legend Edition. I'm still considering getting MLB. But I want to talk to you guys about the history of the Madden cover curse and whether I think Mahomes will be a victim of the curse. Now, just a quick disclaimer, I'm not rooting against or for Mahomes, and I have no bias at all. I'm just basing this off of what I've seen in the past and what I'm going to tell you guys about the Madden curse and what it's done to some of these players. So background on the Madden curse, the curse has been around since 1998. It started with Garrison Hurst, a running back for the 49ers who was placed on the 99 cover, and he ended up breaking his ankle. In 99, when Hurst got hurt, he was told he might never play football again because of a bone that died during surgery complications. He spent the next 2 years rehabbing and trying for a comeback. Hurst was probably the beginning of the Madden cover. In 2000, Barry Sanders was the cover athlete, well at first, and then he retired, which shocked fans of Madden, so EA Sports hurried and made Dorsey Levens a cover, and Levens was an up-and-coming running back for Green Bay. I wouldn't call Sanders' cover for that season a curse as much as it was just a mystery to the Detroit Lion fans. So he wasn't a curse, and Levens had great years afterwards, so 2000 was not a year of a curse. In 2001, Eddie George was named the cover athlete for Madden, and he seemed like he'd be a safe option. Eddie George just led the Titans to a winning record, and that year he ended up leading them to the playoffs where they played the Ravens, where he would have a crucial fumble that would cost their season, and it was actually the last of his truly productive years in the NFL. So I would call his year of his cover a curse. In 2002, Dante Culpepper was quarterback for the young Viking squad with Randy Moss when he was given the cover. Within months of receiving the cover, he would suffer a knee injury against the Steelers to end his year. Then the year afterwards, he would end up throwing more interceptions than touchdowns and start the decline as an NFL quarterback. He is one of the few, but multiple players that saw this curse as a path to declining performance. Now in 2003, Marshall Faulk and the Rams had just went to the Super Bowl, so you're thinking that there's no way the curse could affect him as he was the top running back in the league. But it did. Faulk ended up declining, and he never ran for 1,000 yards again. Kurt Warner left the Rams, Isaac Bruce left the Rams, Torrey Holt's career started, I wouldn't call it decline, but it settled. And his curse was short-lived. But in 2004, Michael Vick was one of the most electric players to watch in the NFL, and he was one of the funnest players to use in Madden. And I remember all the time playing as a kid, and you got Michael Vick, and you just ran around the backfield because no D lineman could catch up to you, and you could just have all the fun in the world and just scramble. But when he ended up getting the cover, he ended up hurting his right fibula in a worthless preseason, and that would make him miss the first 11 games. I wouldn't call this a curse because this was just a freak injury, but the way the Madden curse works out, it does fall under that. And I wouldn't say it hurt his career, but it did hurt the case for Madden. In 2005, EA chose one of the most feared and proven football players in the league, Ray Lewis. Lewis had not been injured much in his career, and he wasn't hurt during his time as a cover athlete until week 6 the next year when he would tear his hamstring and miss the whole year. Lewis was like Vick. His curse was kind of short-lived and minor in the whole realm of their career, as they're both Hall of Fame style players, but the curse did affect them. In 2006, we had Don McNabb. He had just went to the Super Bowl and was the NFC Championship quarterback for the Eagles, and everyone thought he was primed to go for a Super Bowl run again, maybe an MVP candidate, but he would end up getting hurt and spending most of the year on the injury reserve list. And then the year after that, he would end up tearing his ACL and hurting his knee, which would sideline him again for another year. And then the rest of his career ended up with him leaving the Eagles, joining the Redskins, and his career was kind of just in decline ever since that Super Bowl run, which would lead me to say that the curse striked again. And for the 8th year in a row, the curse strikes again. Shaun Alexander landed the cover for 2007. And sadly, probably half of you guys watching this video have never heard of Shaun Alexander or ever seen him play. Alexander would get hurt in the next two upcoming seasons until he'd eventually get cut by the Seahawks. In 2007, Alexander was asked about the curse, and he said, "Do you want to be hurt and on the cover or just hurt?" Shaun Alexander understood that As the Madden curse may not be a real thing and may not have ever really affected him, it sure did seem like it with how the things lined up. So I would say he would probably agree with us that the curse did strike. Now you're probably thinking, we're 10 years in, it's 2008's Madden cover, there's no way the curse has still not been lifted. But this was the year of Vince Young. And this was also the year that we saw Vince Young's career go from maybe a promising quarterback to declining NFL backup. He would eventually have declining performances, which would lead Kerry Collins to take his place in starting lineup within the next year, and then he would start bouncing teams until finding his way out of the NFL. In 2009, Brett Favre was retiring. He had been killing the league the last few years, he had broken all the records, and he had cemented himself as arguably the best gunslinger in NFL history. So he finally receives his first cover, even though he played like 20 years in the NFL. Shortly after the cover was released of Favre wearing his Packers uniform, he chose to retire and come back to the NFL with the Jets and the Vikings. But then the next 4 years would be summed up with a lot of off-the-field issues with his marital issues and injuries. It's safe to say that Favre probably should have stuck to throwing the football to his dog and his friends in his Wrangler and Copper Gold commercials instead of trying to come back to the field, but you can't blame him. It's just he gave the curse a chance to come back and strike. In 2010, Madden tried something for the first time ever, and it was a dual cover athletes with Larry Fitzgerald and Paul Malou. This gave the best chance that there's been for the curse to end, and it actually did for Larry Fitzgerald, who had a great year and broke many of his career highs, and continued to have a pretty good career, which is still going on today. Sadly for Paul Malou, this was the start of his decline, as he would get hurt twice in that year, and the Steelers would miss the playoffs, and he would slowly fade out of the Steelers' defensive system. Drew Brees was the cover athlete from Madden 2011, and we all know today, 10 years later, he is still a top quarterback because he had never got hurt or ever declined in his position. But he did have one of his worst years that year, and it was the year that they lost to Seattle in that memorable Marshawn Lynch run, and it was the first time a team had ever lost in the playoffs to a team with a losing record. So I wouldn't say he was affected by the curse like many players have been before, because I mean, hey, when you have 2 decades of excellence, you're going to have 1 or 2 off years. It just happened for Brees to be after receiving the Madden cover, which sure seems like it was partly due to the curse. Now it's 2012. If you're a Madden player, if you've played Madden most of your life, you know this year by heart. This is the year of Peyton Hillis. Hillis is the definition of one-hit wonder. Peyton Hillis bursted on the scenes as a Cleveland Browns running back, and that's all he ever was. He had a great year. He was probably most improved that year just because he was a nobody who became somebody, and he was given the cover. In my opinion, he didn't deserve the cover. Matt Ryan, Michael Vick, they all had great years. Aaron Rodgers had just won Super Bowl MVP, and many people thought that he deserved the cover. But Hillis got the cover. And Hillis would play 10 games the next season, and he would never be a starting running back ever again. And eventually, the Cleveland Browns would eventually let him go. This was around when the Browns won 3 or 4 games. So it is safe to say, if any cover athlete ever before, Hillis was affected the most by the cover. And if it wasn't for the Madden cover curse, most of the NFL fans would never ever remember this guy. So in 2013, it was one of the first years that the curse was just smacked. I mean, Calvin Johnson was the cover athlete, and he caught almost 2,000 yards, which broke Jerry Rice's record, and he broke multiple other records that year, and continued to be a dominant force until he chose to retire a few years later, which was still an early retirement, and no reason due to injuries or anything like that, which is why I'm safe to say that this curse had no effect on Calvin's total career. And in 2014, Madden came out with the game called Madden 25. It was right when the consoles started switching over from the old gen to the next gen. So they had Barry Sanders as the old gen console cover athlete, and well, you already know he received his curse when he retired after receiving his cover. So for the next gen, Adrian Peterson was the athlete, and he did suffer from the curse. He ended up getting injured that year. The Vikings had a losing record, and he was declared out for the season within the last few weeks. And Peterson's career has been up and down ever since, which leads me to think that this curse had played some role in the decline of his career. So it's 2015, the Seahawks and the Legion of Boom are just running the NFC, and they're on their way to their second Super Bowl berth, and Richard Sherman is awarded the cover athlete Madden 2015. He looked like he was going to beat the curse, as he was still performing really well, but then he would get hurt, and that would end the Legion of Boom in Seattle as he moves from the Seahawks to the 49ers, and the cornerback group kind of breaks up there, which makes me almost feel like the curse may not have affected him as much as it affected the Seahawks as their chance to be a dynasty. But if anything hurt the Seahawks dynasty, it's probably that throw at the 1 yard line. So 2016, Odell Beckham was the cover athlete, and he received that probably based purely off the fandom and the stardom that came around him during the catch against the Cowboys in that Sunday Night Football game. Now, while he had some on-field issues like fighting and losing to a kicking net and multiple other things on sidelines, he had better stats than the year before, which makes me see it as he beat the curse, as he also went to a second Pro Bowl that year. Madden 17, Rob Gronkowski receives the cover and probably being called the #1 tight end and a completely unstoppable force in the NFL. Sadly, this would end up being an injury-riddled season, and his career continued to finish as injury-riddled as it can really get. He was missing probably 5 to 8 games a year. You were hoping he'd be ready for the big games, but you never knew until the morning of. And he was another one of those players that looked like the Madden curse may not have just ended him right then, like a Peyton Hill or something like that. But he had that kind of Marshall Faulk decline where as his body fell apart, sadly his stats fell apart and led to him retiring at a relatively young age. Well, now it's time for everyone's favorite quarterback, Tom Brady, and he graced the 2018 cover, and I think they even gave him the legend cover that year. And well, he completely avoided the curse. Of course he did. Brady would go on to win the NFL MVP and go to Super Bowl, where he would lose the thrill to the Eagles. But he was 40 years old, guys. If anyone was going to lose to the curse, it should have been Brady. But of course, Brady avoided it because it's Tom freaking Brady. And as much as it kills me to say it's an Eagle fan, he is probably the greatest quarterback of all time, which just shows that you probably could put him on this cover for the next 10 years. He would still beat the curse at 50. In 2019, Antonio Brown was given the cover, and as much as the drama affected this year and Le'Veon Bell sitting out can maybe be seen as part of the Madden curse, I would say the curse did not strike him at all because he still had an amazing year. He's still referred to as one of the best receivers in the league. And, well, he just got sent to the Raiders and got out of Pittsburgh like he wanted. So obviously, I don't see anything negative coming out of his cover time. Now for Mahomes, the reason why you probably clicked on this video, you wanted to know whether I think Mahomes will be cursed or not. Well, Mahomes literally just threw for 50 touchdowns in his first year as a starter and went to the AFC Championship game. And if he had Kareem Hunt, probably would have beat Tom Brady and went to the Super Bowl and would have probably beat the Rams, which would have meant he would have won the MVP, the Offensive Player of the Year, and then maybe even a Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP. So if anyone could beat the curse, it would have to be him. And also, 3 of the last 4 years, guys, the curse has been beat. And only Gronk lost to it because of an injury-riddled career. But Gronk was still an amazing player, and you still couldn't stop him if he was on the field. Gronk could go out there with 3 braces on, but you couldn't stop him. Which means, did the curse really beat him, or did his body just give up on him? So I think the curse may be on a decline, and it may be a good time for players to start trying to get rid of this Madden curse that's just hovered over this game for the last 20-25 years. So I expect Mahomes to easily beat the Madden cover, to again lead the Chiefs to a great year, especially now that we know Tyreek Hill will not be suspended. And maybe Madden curse is done by Madden 2020. But if you guys did enjoy this video, please leave a like, because this video is going to take me a lot of time to do. I put a lot of research into this video to look up all the players, look up their stats, and I just want to know what you guys think. Do you guys think Mahomes will be cursed? Do you think Mahomes will have even a better year, if that's even possible? I mean, he threw 50 touchdowns. But And then, who do you guys want to see on the cover for 2020? Leave that in the comments. I want to see who people want to see before the season starts, and see how many of you guys might even be right when Madden 2020 rolls around. I mean, if my man Carson Wentz can stay healthy, I'd love to see him on a cover, but he's got to stay healthy first. So, again, guys, thanks for watching this video. I hope you guys really enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys all next time.